Hello, good people. Welcome to the May 2026 Scroll Report, where we scroll back through the month of May to see if there's anything worth keeping. May is graduation month for many universities in America. 2026 saw a lot of backlash to commencement speakers who were talking about AI. Former Google CEO Eric Schmidt was booed multiple times as he repeatedly attempted to tell the audience how AI will become part of how work is done. Real estate executive Gloria Caulfield was interrupted mid-speech by heavy jeering when she tried to hype up AI as the next industrial revolution. The Big Machine Records CEO, Scott Borchetta, was heavily booed for telling grads that AI is rewriting production as we sit here, and then told the crowd, deal with it. Meanwhile, at Glendale Community College, the college president announced they were using an AI system to read off the graduates' names with hilarious results. There was a massive student response at Marquette University when it was found that Adobe AI executive Chris Duffy was going to provide the commencement speech there. Journalist Fareed Zakaria actually sent out a trigger warning to his audience before giving his commencement speech at Bard College. The phenomenon has prompted national media outlets like NPR to issue widespread warnings advising the future graduation speakers to completely strip positive mentions of AI out of their scripts if they want to avoid a hostile crowd. By far, the best commencement address of 2026 went to Conan O'Brien at Harvard. And on a separate note, it turns out ugly fuck Stephen Miller is actually a narcissistic, infantile ugly fuck. Low-hanging fruit. So, that said, let's get on with Boom Scroll and Doom Scroll for May 2026. And a Boom Scroll for the state of Hawaii for figuring out how to circumvent the 2010 Supreme Court Citizens United ruling that gives corporations money the power of speech. Well, why not leverage a previous Supreme Court ruling against it? The 1819 Trustees of Dartmouth College versus Woodard decision states that corporations are created by the laws of a state. So Hawaii has become the first state in the nation to effectively ban corporate and dark money from elections. To whom does this democracy actually belong? Asked Hawaii State GOP Rep. Kanani Souza in an impassioned speech supporting the passage of this law. 14 other states have introduced similar bills that rely on this legal framework, and more states are planning legislation in the upcoming year. The impact on American political financing would be, and this is not an understatement, seismic, said MS Now host Ali Veshi. How about one more doom scroll for OpenAI, ChatGPT, which has become the go-to application for planning and executing mass shootings, such as the Florida State University shooting. Heartfelt boom scroll for Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who has been through an awful ordeal because he's the face of our current administration's anti-immigration fanaticism. After exposing human rights abuses at the El Salvadorian Sikot concentration camp, the Trump administration embarked on a retaliation campaign against Mr. Garcia, trying to prosecute him for human trafficking. Well, on May 22nd, the judge threw that case out of court and admonished the prosecution for malicious attack. Now, this isn't the end of Garcia's tribulations. He still can be deported, but most likely he can be deported to a country that with the language that he speaks. I'm personally hoping that he continues to live in my community and stands out as a shining light to all of us on how to fight back against tyranny. And doom scroll for Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. Bryant claims to hold a dual degree in psychology and Pan-African studies from California State University, Northridge. She later decided to pursue her doctorate at the now defunct Argosy University. When confronted about her credentials on the Breakfast Club on May 12th, Bryant resorted to the last refuge of the scoundrel, religion. She stated, "I'm not going to prove anything to anybody. My obedience is to God, not people." Well, thanks for clearing that up for us. Here, let's wash all that fraud out of our mouths with a boom scroll for the Ferrari Luce. Ferrari is facing some massive headwinds with the release of their first all-electric vehicle, designed by former Apple exec Sir Joni Ive and Mark Newsom at Creative Collection Loveform. Many outlets are giving lots of different reasons for such a disastrous rollout, all the way from, well, the prices rose in anticipation, this is the kind of a rebound effect to that, to people really not liking Ferrari getting into electric vehicles at all, to the whopping $640,000 price for this car. However, I remain optimistic about Ferrari's prospects, and that's why I gave it a boom scroll. Here are the reasons why. Number one, the Luce is Ferrari fast. It can hit 60 miles an hour in 2.5 seconds and tops out at 192 miles per hour. Second, it's got 4 seats. This is the first Ferrari with a back seat. Now you can bring your kids along. Third, the design is ahead of the curve. And it can't be like the iMac. When that first came out, people were ready for an egg-shaped computer. People may not be ready for that far-out spoiler, but they will be soon, as well as all the rest of the modern tech that goes into this car. Leaving aside the polarized opinions of the exterior, everybody agrees that the interior is truly Ferrari-worthy. Everything that the human skin touches inside that car is either CNC milled aluminum, textured glass, or leather. And lastly, just like the iMac, the Ferrari Luce is going to be a model for innovators in other fields and other vehicles. Whether it's efficiency, performance, aesthetics, technology, Ferrari has made the investment for others to follow suit. And for that, we thank you. And doom scroll for the blue dot fever. Ugh. We're going to need a vaccine for that? Do we need to cut funding to a shithole country? No. Blue dot fever is actually a term for the phenomenon of musical artists canceling tours due to low ticket sales. It gets its name from the sea of blue dots that appear on online ticketing platforms like Ticketmaster that represent empty seats. Some artists who have suffered from blue dot fever include Meghan Trainor, who had to cancel her entire Get In Girl tour, Zayn Malik abandoned all U.S. dates. Post Malone and Jelly Roll canceled a third of their co-headings at U.S. stadium tours. The Pussycat Dolls canceled all but one date of their North American reunion tour. And Kid Cudi canceled one show. The media is going out of its way to emphatically deny that this phenomena has anything to do with the April Live Nation ruling against Ticketmaster. I see a connection, though. I think that this is more a part of overly inflated ticket prices for live music, and we do need to do something. My advice to you, find all the free live music you can find in your area. Once again, we have a boom scroll for the city of Philadelphia, looking like one of the most progressive cities in America and addressing our history of racial injustice. In April, the Philadelphia City Council passed a resolution to recognize and honor May 21st of each year as Ona Judge Day in the city of Philadelphia. Ona Judge was enslaved by the Custis family of Virginia, who our first president George Washington married into for money. Ona Judge was forced to relocate with the Washington family to Philadelphia after he was elected president and lived a fairly relatively comfortable life there until she heard that the Washingtons were going to give her as a present to their granddaughter Elizabeth Custis. That made her realize that she was just seen as property to the Washington family and decided that she was a free person. She escaped on May 21st, 1796, smuggled aboard a ship sailing to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where she taught herself to read and write and embrace Christianity. Of course, the Washingtons were devastated by how could she just do this to us when we treated her so well? We treated her better than our dogs. However, when President Washington heard that she was in Portsmouth, he sent a posse up there to enforce the Fugitive Slave Act. Ona Judge did offer to return to the Washingtons under the condition that she would be set free upon their deaths. President Washington refused that arrangement. Instead, Washington sent another squad of slave catchers to abscond her, kidnap her, and bring her back. Unfortunately, though, he blabbed to the wrong person, and Ona Judge heard about it and escaped to Greenland, New Hampshire, where she remained until she died in 1848. So kudos to the city of Philadelphia for recognizing one of the many people in our history who exposed the hypocrisy of our Constitution's preamble. And a doom scroll for the Minnesota Republican Party nominating convention held on Memorial Day, where they dedicated a moment of silence for George Floyd's murderer, convicted cop bastard Derek Chauvin. I mean, you had 9.5 minutes of silence in 2020. You still need more? By all means, do us all a favor and stay silent for the rest of your lives. Lastly, a boom scroll for the commemorative Air Force Rise Above Squadron. That's a threefold educational outreach program that brings the history and legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen and the Women Air Force Service Pilots, or WASPs, to life in communities and classrooms everywhere. Their Rise Above traveling exhibit came to Stafford County during Memorial Day weekend, featuring movies about the Red Tails and the Wasps. It makes me so proud of my country when people like this prove that America's strength lies in our diversity. Thank you. And now we have a new segment in the Scroll Report, The Raw Perspective with Richard A. Walker. Welcome to the Scroll Report, Richard A. Walker.
Hi, Tony. How you doing?
Glad to see
Nice to
you,
have you here.
Richard.
Okay, man. Good to see you as well.
Thanks. So tell me, what is your raw perspective for May 2026?
Well, Tony, I tell you, it was in the news that unfortunately the Supreme Court decided to basically roll back Voter Right Act of 1965 to make it so-called neutral. or less with less binding things for cases where gerrymandering took place. They removed those constraints that were put in to safeguard the right of folks to organize and vote in those areas. And since it's the Supreme Court, that means it applies across the country.
Yes.
And almost immediately, Tony, almost immediately, we saw Louisiana, Georgia, Alabama, etc., those Southern Bloc states cancel ongoing elections. They had primaries, midterm primaries coming up, cancel them, and already start to make changes and hold assemblies that were already closed for the season to go back and do gerrymandering and change and put into effect those laws. As a result of that, you're starting to see seats that were once Democratic, once majority, being raced off the map. And this is a familiar recourse to any of us that are back in the 60s, have any memory of what happened in the 60s.
And it seems especially egregious in Louisiana.
Yes, yes. There's in Louisiana, in this particular case, what caught my attention was, not only do I have family in that area, which is why a guy like me up here in Minnesota would be concerned, right? But the fact that in Louisiana, they have moved with all deliberate speed, as they call it. They already, after canceling the elections, they already had the assembly and they've already removed one of the districts. They simply rewrote the
Hmm.
map. It looks it's the most improbable layout of a district. It's literally they took pieces and cut corners. And I just wish it's worse than a jigsaw puzzle. And so, in doing so, they've already removed one seat, and now they are making the majority is going to become, if nothing else changes, basically going from a 4-2 representation for Democrats and versus Republicans. Meaning GOP has 4 seats now, to a 5-1 supermajority for the GOP. And it's just the fact that we see this sort of action taking place that, again, the alarm bells went off.
The Supreme Court ruling has really galvanized a lot of southern states. So what are people like us supposed to do to fight back?
Let me pose a question to you. What if I told you about a guy that was from Louisiana, 55 years old, crop farmer, competitive bass fisherman, uh, from a little town called Waterproof, located along the old Mississippi in northern Louisiana? And what if I told you that this guy said that, hey, come on, man, I'm just a country boy. Before he kind of pulled out his gun and said oops and kind of slid that gun back underneath there and said, hey man, we got hogs running wild on the farm, and hey, we got bears up here too. Uh, what if I told you about that? What kind of image would come to your mind about this person? What
A
would you think? What would you
Republican?
see? Okay, okay. And well, that's what I thought. I thought about that for a second. Well, it turns out, Tony, this person that was quoted here, and I've got some more information about him. His name is Jaime Davis, and he's a Democrat running for the U.S. Senate in Louisiana.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Jaime, who is a son of a sharecropper, and so he talked about the fact that his brothers couldn't work. They couldn't go to school, I should say, excuse me, because the pop said, "Hey, we need you out here on the farm." So if it's from that background that Jaime knows the nature of work, and I think America knows that farmers, we have a profound feeling about farmer and farming in general. Jaime said and to the folks there that, hey, look, I know I don't fit the typical mold of a upper crust elite society member with an advanced degree, et cetera, powerful political connections. But what I do know is that the Constitution was not written for the elite. It was written for the common people, and it's time that this common man and us as common people have a say. And that struck a nerve with me, Tony. I was like, yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is something I'm going to plug into. So I dug a little bit deeper. I said, what are we going to say? And it's at this point that I found another quote from Jaime. And Jaime
Mm-hmm.
said, race don't have anything to do with hard work. White folks work hard, black folks work hard. Black folks have problems affording life, just as white folks have a problem affording life. And I love that phrasing.
Mm-hmm.
if you're not physically set in life, then you have to get up and go to work. I'm your candidate because that's who I am. So, and make a current status, just to be brief about it, is that indeed Mr. Davis uh, went into the Democratic primary. He won the Democratic primary. He got 47% of the vote of the primary, putting him in first place, and is now launching full bloom his Senate campaign.
Tell me, what specifically about Jamie Davis really inspires you? How does his candidacy move the needle?
We have a Jamie with his unique background, right? It
Hmm.
and his unique background has a different way. He's basically got his version of trying to form a coalition of people that are across party lines. He mentions they've got Republicans silently supporting him. Independents who never considered voting Democratic are now looking and paying into his campaign. And of course, working class people. And this is just because the message is coming from a black farmer, which is rare enough that still has land in Louisiana, unfortunately. But the fact that he's trying to say, hey, look, my budget has $23.25 for gas and not the $4.50 that I've got to pay now for it if I'm a farmer and I can't do that. My fertilizer, hey, it's I've got a budget for $400 a ton and I'm paying five and some change. Those are the things that relate to people that are working to make a living, and that message is going to get through. And that's something that ties into everything that you see that they say, quote, the Democratic Party has missed the message on. So that's what's got my message. He's younger. He's reaching out for a different kind of coalition based on that. And how can you not get excited about it? I mean, why can't people make their own groups, coalitions based on needs, interests, and so forth in a different way? Come on now, it's supposed to be a democracy. Let's do it.
So this might actually surprise the Supreme Court. It might actually end up having the exact opposite effect.
How about that? And wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't that be great?
Mhm.
Hey, yeah.
So, where do we go from here on out? I mean, it's the beginning of June now. What are you expecting to happen with Mr. Davis?
It's interesting now because there's more campaign. The fight, the what do you call it? The spotlight is moving on to him now that he actually won something. He's talking about the fact that all of a sudden now that he knows people are starting to ring the bell. The opposite party is starting to cash the checks and run ads, so he's gotten their positive attention. So I expect this to be a sign because I think there was also a ruling in another state in the South. I forget which one that actually paused this attempt to gerrymander. So it's kind of waking people up to the fact that this is going on. So I think it has the potential to be a broad spread. Okay, yes, the Supreme Court may have relaxed the rules, but that doesn't mean this is their time to play. And so we'll
Hmm.
see how that plays out. We'll see how that plays out. For me, hey, I got family there. I like the message. Politics, they said the old expression, politics is local. I'm gonna take my $10 that I might have wasted on a Big Mac or Starbucks and contribute to the man's campaign and do what I can to share the message with friends and others.
Do you have a location where people can send donations to Mr. Davis?
Yeah, I certainly do. It's a link because I get emails from his campaign, and I'll definitely share that information to you, Tony. If you want to slap a message out there, why not? Let's.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do
Yeah,
that.
that sounds good. Sounds good. Appreciate it, Tony. I like this. Thank you. This has
Uh,
been fun.
Thank you too, Richard. Thank you very much for your perspective on this. And we will definitely be making it a project to follow Mr. Davis's campaign through November.
Exactly. Exactly.
All
Will do,
right.
and look forward to kind of keeping everybody in the loop.
Okay. And I look forward to any other content that you want to contribute to the Scroll Report. And I'll be looking forward to a few more bits in this issue.
You got it. You got it. Keep it going, Tony. I love it. It's a great, great format.
All right. Thanks, Richard. And you take care now. We'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Take care.
All right. You too. We got it wrapped up. And now it's time for Scroll Bits. In music news, the Claypool-Lennon Delirium has released their first rock opera, or as they would prefer to call it, a narrative album. The Great Parrot Ox and the Golden Egg of Empathy. Love the album. Just keeps going more into that psychedelic weirdness that these two are so adept at. The album also features Willow, who's been making the rounds, also with Thundercat of late. So while listening to this album, I keep asking myself over and over, when exactly did Sean Lennon eclipse his legendary father's stature? For me, it was the day I heard Animals from Ghost of a Saber-Toothed Tiger. Ooh. Hot take. Funk pioneer George Clinton, founder of Parliament Funkadelic, has sued Universal Music Group for over $1.1 million in withheld royalties. Universal Music has been holding these royalties for 3 years, while Clinton's lawsuit against former bandmate keyboardist Bernie Worrell makes its way through appeals courts. However, Clinton claims that the money being withheld is causing financial hardship for him, and he's asking a court to provide some relief. Canadian pop moaner Drake released 3 albums on May 15th, Iceman, Habibti, and Maid of Honor. These releases are the first Drizzy has put out since he was publicly exposed for who he really is by rapper Kendrick Lamar in 2023. The lasting impact of K-Dot's takedown causes something of an epistemological crisis. Is any of the content on these 3 albums good? I listened to Iceman and couldn't find anything as good as Hotline Bling on there. Of course, my circles are all reporting back 43 swings, 43 misses. But you know, the Drake stans are saying like this is the greatest wordplay since Shakespeare. What's got me kind of tilting over into the not good side is how Drake keeps relying on industry metrics to demonstrate his prowess. That dog may hunt for pop stars, but hip hop stars? Please leave a comment below with the name of any hip hop artist who used industry metrics to demonstrate their position in the game.
Hello, everyone. So Tony shared with us an incredible artist, Yuna Sarita, in January 2026. And there was no way, after hearing this young lady play, that she could have not have studied the funk bass. That was as clear. Somewhere she had to get that groove from somewhere. So I went ahead and did a more, in-depth look at her website. And when I was there, I found just what I was looking for. Bingo. I saw her do covers of people like Larry Graham. And for those of you who don't know Larry Graham, you might think of Sly Stone, okay, Sly and the Family Stone, and Graham Central Station, which was a subsequent band endorsed by folks like Elton John, among others. And also, you'll find a link to her doing covers of Marcus Miller. And when you think of Marcus Miller, think of Miles Davis. So that shows you the breadth of her exposure to jazz and her exposure to the way bass is played, both jazz and contemporary. So after doing that and checking that link out, I said, wait a minute, because there was in her video, it was called Tap the Bass. She was doing a routine with another dancer. And I said to myself, wait a minute, this is familiar. So I had to do one more check. And I went to the internet, of course, and I found this. There was a similar regiment routine done 18 years prior with the Arsenio Hall show. And it featured a legendary slap bassist himself and jazz bassist his name was Stanley Clarke. And those of you that knew Stanley Clarke also may know the band Return to Forever. So that tells you how diverse and deep her journey has been. And with Stanley Clarke, was another venerable person I'm sure many of you may remember, and his name was Gregory Hines. Please check out the video link that Tony will provide and tell me if you don't see echoes of the past coming through the playing of this young lady in the present. Take care. Talk later. Talk soon.
In art news, Jean-Michel Basquiat's 1983 painting, Museum Security, Broadway Meltdown, sold for a record $52.7 million in May. I just have to ask, who got all that money? In movie news, Send Help with Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. It's not quite the feminist manifesto it purports to be. A much more adorable feminist movie came out on Netflix in May. Ladies First was a charming little comedy of errors, expertly played by Sacha Baron Cohen and Rosamund Pike. I was particularly taken with the performance of Sacha Baron Cohen. You know, the old Borat with the low-brow, heavy humor, was able to handle this with delicacy and subtlety, managing to smooth over a lot of the hiccups in the plot to help us make it even more sensible. Low-budget horror movie Obsession has been dominating the box office throughout the Memorial Day weekend holiday. So far, Obsession has grossed worldwide $179 million. Considering it cost less than $1 million to produce, this is a massive sleeper. Actress and gamer girl Felicia Day has opened up a Kickstarter for her passion project, The Guild. The Guild was an American comedy web series created and written by Ms. Day, also starring some up-and-coming actors Amy Okuda and Herman Holden. The series depicts the everyday lives of a guild of MMORPG players, very much like World of Warcraft, and all the crap they go through. After their first season in 2007, they entered a partnership with Microsoft to stream on Xbox Marketplace. Ms. Day moved premiere episodes of Season 6 to her YouTube channel, Geeks and Sundry, in order to maintain ownership of the property. In 2013, at the end of the 6th season, Ms. Day confirmed that the web series was complete. The entire series is now available on DVD and streaming on Apple TV. So imagine my joy when I received a notification for a pre-launch of a Kickstarter campaign for the Guild Reunion movie. The Kickstarter will go live later this summer, and I am eagerly awaiting the release of a reunion movie of the Guild. Hey everybody, Boots Riley's done it again. The wunderkind auteur of Sorry to Bother You and I Am a Virgo has now released on May 22nd, I Love Boosters. I tell you, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm gonna go on a limb and say that this is a movie of the year, to be seen by everyone, hands down. So stop watching me and go watch I Love Boosters. I didn't watch the new Michael Jackson biopic, Michael, and I probably still won't because I don't really enjoy biopics. But I've been in several conversations this past weekend about the movie, and I think that it needs to be covered in the Scroll Report. Michael was penned by John Logan, who wrote Any Given Sunday. It was directed by Antoine Fuqua, who directed Training Day, and starred Jafar Jackson, Michael Jackson's nephew. So it is a powerful setup. The movie covers Jackson's early life, from his involvement in the Jackson 5 to his Bad World tour in the late 80s. And there's definitely a disconnect between the critical reception and the audience's reception. The box office numbers go like this. It earned $39.5 million on its first day, surpassing Oppenheimer as the biggest opening day for a biopic, and the biggest opening day of 2026. It has so far grossed $860 million worldwide. But the critics say are giving it like a 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5, calling it empty and vapid. Some people are saying that it doesn't address issues that should be talked about. Other people say that it shouldn't address those issues since it's talking about Jackson's early years. But the people I was talking to said that it was a cogent and compelling psychological examination of the personality of pop's biggest star. I wanted to share something my wife said about Michael Jackson, that he is actually our first look-smaxer. Let's leave it at that. In television news, I'm hoping once again that we've finally seen peak roast. I know. I say this every time they pull together a bunch of has-beens, also-rans, and wannabes to shit-talk somebody who's slightly ahead of them in the game. What started out many years ago as a mutual appreciation society for comedians has morphed into a public spectacle of triggering and political incorrectness, and just say something that'll keep you remembered for the upcoming news cycle. But I think the roast of Kevin Hart on Netflix May 10th went too far. I think the balance between cringe and yucks has tilted permanently. And I'm just hoping that we're done with this phenomena for now. Here's me holding my breath. And in science news, the U.S. Geological Survey announced late April that it had estimated that there are 2.3 million metric tons of undiscovered, economically recoverable lithium in the eastern Appalachian region of the United States. This lithium could be enough to replace 328 years of U.S. imports of lithium at 2024 levels. Of course, the ankle biters are saying, whoa, slow your roll now. America's regulatory environment might delay or even cancel many of these projects. Besides, Exxon's doing a fabulous job of extracting lithium from oil field brines in Arkansas. Besides, sodium-ion batteries and other next-generation chemistries are quickly eclipsing lithium ions' viability as a battery technology. The University of California, Berkeley Center for Studies in Higher Education released a working paper last month, Artificial Intelligence and Grade Inflation. In a nutshell, students are learning less but getting higher grades. I believe this is going to result in a whole generation of Dunning-Krugers. And on May 28th, a new Glenn rocket prototype belonging to Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin exploded on a launch pad at Cape Canaveral, Florida, leaving the future of the Artemis mission, satellite programs, and Amazon itself in a serious question. And in tech news, a bill to block publishers from killing online games advanced in California. The Protect Our Games Act would require digital publishers who cut off support on an online game to either provide a full refund to players or offer an updated version of the game that enables its continuous use independent of services controlled by the operator. The act would also require publishers to notify players 60 days before the cessation of services necessary for the ordinary use of a digital game. I see this as a solid inroads of the Stop Killing Games movement in America. And it's starting to look like cheap Chinese RAM might be entering the U.S. consumer market. Chinese memory maker CXMT is putting out a Corsair Vengeance DDR kit. There are still many questions about the chip's viability, efficiency, performance, and cost. But tariff issues aside, this could take some of the squeeze off the RAM shortage that we've been suffering for personal computing for quite a while. Book of the month is the Chung Kuo novel series by David Wingrove. After the disastrous Chinese junket in May, got me wanting to go back and look at this series of books to give me more insight into the Chinese perspective of these modern times. But Wingrove's perspective is especially Western. The premise of the series is that China has finally conquered the entire Earth and divided it into 5 sections, each ruled by a brother of the conquering family. The American hemisphere is governed by one Chinese brother who has very much of a laissez-faire, hands-off approach to governing. So it creates a lot of conflict. So in all, this novel series is an excellent examination of the West's fear of Chinese culture. On the nonfiction side, we have The Art of Money Getting by P.T. Barnum. I love that title. It's The Art of Money Getting. And really, this book is an excellent how-to on getting anything. It's basically an outline for getting what you want. Put your mind to it, dedicate yourself to it, and commit to what it takes to get it. And now we come to Mento Mori. Media mogul and philanthropist Ted Turner passed away on May 5th at the age of 87 due to undisclosed causes. He was known mainly for founding CNN cable news network and his brief marriage to actress Jane Fonda. NBA center and power forward Jason Collins passed away around May 12th at the age of 47 for a brain tumor. And while he played a significant role in securing the New Jersey Nets' first ever NBA Finals berth in 2002, he's more famous for being the first openly gay NBA player. Two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Busch passed away from pneumonia on May 21st at the age of 41. On the same day, May 21st, former congressman and gay rights pioneer Barney Frank passed away at the age of 86 after receiving hospice care for heart congestion. Tenor saxophonist, the saxophone colossus, Sonny Rollins, passed away at the age of 95 around May 25th with no cause of death. Rollins began his career during the bop age with the Miles Davis Quintet, along with Miles Davis and Max Roach and John Coltrane. Rollins' career continued to ascend through the 60s to the 2010s as the saxophone colossus himself. And there you have it, the Scroll Report for May 2026. Hope there was something worth keeping in there. Throw a thumbs up if there was. Subscribe to the Scroll Report to be notified when a new issue comes out, usually the first Sunday after the previous month. And subscribe to the newsletter on TonyMcFarland.com for the follow-up newsletter that comes out the following Tuesday. Many thanks to Richard A. Walker for his contributions to this issue, and if you have content to contribute to the Scroll Report, reach out to me at TonyMcFarland.com. All the same, thanks for your eyes, and have the best June 2026 ever. Bye.